We got a little bit clearer. Okay. What's up, y'all? And welcome to another recap of Love is Blind season 9. We are going to do episodes 10 and 11. This is by far the most entertaining season, and I hate that for them. I love it for us, unfortunately. It is so apparent that love is hard and the dating pool is okay, let's get right into it. Let's start with the couples that did not make it, which I think the two most obvious couples that are forcing their way through each episode, each confessional, each scene. It's it's actually really sad because you can tell in both cases that the woman is pulling at strings. The woman in the relationship is always the one fighting to make it work, and the guy's just going along to get along. Okay, so Nick and Annie. I'm mindful that these are people. They are human. We are all human. We all have our issues. We are all flawed. And I just preface with that because I don't want to sound harsh when I talk about Annie being textbook example of insecure, anxious attachment, love bomber. That scene, I was visibly like shook. I was so uncomfortable. And Nick's breakup was such an unexpected scene. You know how sometimes you're watching it and some of the couples, it's the scenes are getting kind of dry. So you're kind of watching it, but you're not really tuning in that much. The scene where Nick's like, I can't do this, I paused it. I was like, what did he say? He said it as if he was like, it's gonna rain today. Or, let's go skating, let's get ice cream. He did not break tone character, I don't know, but he was just so nonchalant and blasé about you're about to rip this girl's heart open because she is, I think she said, I would give everything for you. I would die for you. I'm like, oh, Annie, that's you need to be on someone's couch talking to, you know, with someone with certifications and degrees on her wall, because that is not there's a lot of therapy needed there because there should never be anyone in this world where you feel like I would do anything for you. I would give up everything when it comes to romantic relationships. If you have a son, if you have a daughter, I get it. Like your kids, you would die for your kids. But for someone that you met 4 weeks ago, for you to feel like you were willing to throw your life away, give up everything, and do whatever it took to like beg, plead, and hope that this man would change his mind about you, and let's be honest, Nick was never fully in it. He was doing his best to see if it would get better. And I think that's the hard thing about relationships because one party, unfortunately, is always going to be a little bit more invested than the other. This is what it is. And you can pretend, no, we both are obsessed. We both love each other. There's always one person that and let's put it like this. Um, some relationships don't last because of power struggles and the power dynamic being imbalanced. One person is likely, let's use Megan for example. One person's life will not change in or out of the relationship, meaning their quality of life, their standard, what they have access to, it is relatively the same in the relationship or outside of the relationship. So in Megan and Jordan's case, Megan has the upper hand because she has the power to be like, this is a lot. I'm going to take myself on a solo vacation to Fiji. And she can do what she needs to like relax herself. Jordan, on the other hand, he has responsibilities. He's a father. He doesn't make as much as Megan. So that power imbalance and that power dynamic can really make or break a relationship. And so with Annie and Nick, Nick is fine. Like Nick is doing well for himself. Like Nick doesn't need Annie. Annie needs Nick. And because Annie makes it so apparent, and she even tries to gaslight, I don't know, she tries to do this like reverse psychology where she's like, I don't need you. In one of her like drunken spiels, I don't need you, Nick. I don't need you. He's like, oh, okay. What am I supposed to do with this? And it's so important that we all have this just deep level of self-love and self-respect to where you don't feel like you have to make a confession like that to someone that you just met a few days ago who clearly isn't giving you the reassurance, the affirmation that you need. So you either have to give it to yourself or realize that this relationship is so forced. And I think the breakup scene, it I just, oof. Mm. I was proud that Nick didn't wait until the altar to tell Annie how he really felt. And again, I think he's always felt like this, but words are so empty. And we'll get to KB and Edmund talked about not apologizing unless you actually mean it. Like we'll talk about whether that's toxic or not. But words are very empty. This show, it is so easy to say, I love you. It is so easy to, like, this is, "Mwah, oh, I love you." You're kissing a pair of, it's just skin. Like when you're seeing people kiss and make out, that's not a display of love. That's them playing house, doing their best to see if they can make it work. But you don't just go to the gym already being and feeling in shape. You're lifting weights, not knowing, like, not knowing how long it's going to take, but knowing I don't know, if I lift enough weights, if I'm consistent enough, I will get in shape. And so I think that's kind of the practice of dating. And with this show specifically, they're kissing, they're holding hands, they're telling each other they love each other until one day, hopefully, they both believe it. But I don't actually think what they're falling in is lust. They're falling into pressure, they're falling into fame, they're falling into a lot of things. But it's hard to call it love when love has become so diluted that it's so easy to say and then break up with them the next day, like Nick did. Okay, let's talk about Joe and Madison. Joe, oh my God. Which he reminds me of literally Joey from Friends, and they kind of look alike. They have the same name. But let's start first. Madison's sister at the meet and greet, I thought she was a little bit extra. I don't know if, I don't know, I felt like she was low key hitting on Joe. I felt like, because that was her husband next to her, which they were both good looking men. And so it seemed like she was kind of competing with her sister. And I caught Madison kind of rolling her eyes at one of the sister's reactions. I don't know, it felt kind of off. And so sibling rivalry is interesting because in a previous season, there was another sister that was super rude to the fiance. I don't even remember the names. He was the one with the long hair. Yeah, I don't remember, but maybe 2 seasons ago. And yeah, she was jealous of her sister having a husband for her. But yeah, so I just clocked that. And it was really I don't want to call it manipulation, but when Madison's mom was like, don't blindside her, like it would kill me if you told her no at the altar. Like her heart is everything. Like, do not break her heart. And it felt like a threat. And I don't know if that was and Joe was just he always is like tuned out. Like the guy isn't there. He's so checked out for the relationship. He's so checked out of this process that I think he's literally I don't know, people are saying he's on some type of substance, and I think I mean, you can kind of see that there's something happening internally, and he would have some moments where he kind of like spazzes out on camera, and it's sad because he's fighting himself. He knows he's fighting his flesh. He doesn't want to do this, but something is whether it's a bet, I don't know. I feel like he's forcing himself. He was forcing himself to keep going. And there was a scene where he was so cryptic. He was like, there's always certain things. Right before Madison's mom was like, oh, I see zero red flags about Joe. And then at the tux fitting, he was like, yeah, there's just certain things. Me and Madison, there's just certain things. Jordan's face in that scene was hilarious. He was like, dude, what? I think everyone was like, like Nick was like, prying. And then there was a moment where Joe's friend was like, how does it feel? Does it feel real now? He's like, man, shut the F up. you, you invited these good people to come witness this happy occasion and support you in this season. And you're cursing them out. It was crazy. Um, yeah, Joe looked nauseous when he was drunk. Sorry. He looked like he wanted to barf. He looked so he was not he was not well. Like, he was really out of it, and, oh my goodness, I kind of felt bad. Um, and the worst part is now he's reliving his trauma twice because he already ended an engagement once, and I didn't know, he shared it on episode 10 where he was like, "Yeah, I had the invites and I went to mail it off and I just couldn't mail it." I'm like, "Man, that's such a" and now you have this second trauma, you're trying on your tux and you just couldn't go through. So that kinda sucks. And, yeah, I think what was interesting about the breakup scene, I know Madison really she needed that closure, maybe just to feel better about herself, because when someone blindsides you, no pun intended, but when they end things unexpectedly, you kind of want to feel like there was logic behind it, not just because one day you fell out of love with me. And so she's pulling for a reason, like, just tell me why, tell me what it is, tell me what happened. Is it something I can fix? And I think it's so important for women that we don't seek answers when something happens because then you feel like you are responsible for the relationship not working. And you internalize that as not being enough or feeling like you need to change yourself. And Madison is fine as she is. I think there were moments where she recognized, she can be a bit explosive. She can work on her temper and her patience, but I think she's one of the more quality women on the show. So yeah, it was brutal. The confession that he made at the end is just like it's not right. It just doesn't feel right. And I really liked how I mean, I don't like when they show kind of like the breakdown, but after Madison was able to mourn a little bit, thought it was really classy how she um, wanted to be peaceful. And I think she needed that for herself. There was like classy closure there, just saying, thank you for going on this experience with me. Thank you for being on this part of my journey. And I think Elizabeth Gilbert, the author of Eat, Pray, Love, she always talks about how people come into our lives as assignments and they come in to teach us specific things about ourselves. And we walk very different journeys, learning what we need to in this life. And I think it was beautiful that she was able to honor Joe in that way, even though Joe didn't deserve that. And he was just, I don't know, just such a waste of her time. And I feel bad, but I think it was great that they did not make it to the altar because I think we both knew that. Okay, Anton and Ally. In the beginning of the episode, I was like, ugh. Anton, he was defensive and avoidant. And I think this is like classic avoidant dismissive character. I think it's very common for men to exhibit this behavior. They don't take accountability, they don't take ownership. And let me tell you, Allie taught me some things. I was like, oh, that is very cute. It's and I had a friend who also was very skillful in the way that she does this. And when she has conflict with her partner, she gets curious instead of critiques or criticizes. And I'm like, oh, that's when you know someone is in the wrong, it's just better to just call out the wrong. But my friend, and I think what Ali also did, is she got curious about, what happened to that bottle of tequila? Oh, it's no longer there? Oh, oh wow, didn't we have a 12 pack? And she would make these questions, and her tone is great. Like, I think when it comes to, there was a point maybe in 2021 where I hired a femininity coach because I was like, I don't know how to do this. And in my previous relationship before Stefan, my ex was very like alpha masculine. And so I knew I was very blasé, but I also didn't know what it meant to be a girlfriend really. So I had a lot of learning and skills to develop in terms of how to speak to a man to not emasculate him and not make him feel less empowered. So yeah, I saw Allie really resting in her femininity during conflict resolution. And I talked about in the previous recap episode or video that I posted on YouTube that I think Allie and Anton have the most traditional character arc in terms of him, working, paying for the bills. She goes to school, but she's work optional. He kind of covers everything. And it is the ideal for many women, but understand that like it also comes with a little bit of I don't know, the man might be a little bit more controlling or possessive. And that power dynamic of him having access to all the funds doesn't give you the same access to the treatments or the things that you want, which is why I'm glad that she advocated for keeping her own separate bank account on top of their joint, because in no world does it make sense for women to not have their own on top of joint. I don't care how long you've been married. I think it's just important that women, we always protect ourselves because you just never know. And yeah, there wasn't always a situation. I mean, it wasn't always the case where women can have their own bank account. So it's just important. Um, yeah, so again, Allie gets curious rather than convicts. And I think her mom was it was very beautiful, those conversations that she had with her mom. And I really appreciated that. Allie's sister not supporting, I think I get it. And here's the reality. If any of my siblings or friends were casted and they wanted me to be a part of the filming process, um, my first question would be like, do you want unconditional support or like unfiltered transparency? Because I can be both. Both come from love. I can give you absolute support or I can give you absolute honesty. And I don't know that those conversations are always had in advance. So it can be tricky when people are put on the spot to just go along with something that they are just now learning of. So, yeah, it's just a tough situation because, for example, was it no, Megan's sister so supportive, like we love a girl's girl. You could see that she's just down, and I think that support is just beautiful to witness and experience because not every family member will be like that. And at the same time, in previous episodes where, how am I blanking on all of their names, but the Panamanian guy with the little ponytail, maybe this was also 2 seasons ago? Last year? I don't know. But short, quirky black girl and the Panamanian ponytail guy. The mom immediately, like, her mom was like, "Absolutely not." And I used to think, wow, she is so rude. Like, how could you like give him a chance, give your daughter a chance? And she knew. And it's almost like the BS radar is so strong. So yeah, it's hard when you're in your love bubble and everything is like, beautiful and you're googly eyed and just the idea of being married, the idea of being a wife can be like highly romanticized for a lot of women. So I understand why some family members just choose to not support. Okay, let's talk about Jordan and Megan, which I think is they are going to be everyone's favorite couple and hopefully the only ones that make it. And I'm going to put an asterisk, okay? Um Jordan's parents are amazing. Adore them. Adorable. The joke of like, "Oh, have you guys kissed or something? Oh, we're waiting to kiss till marriage. We're waiting till marriage to kiss." I thought that joke was so brilliant. Like, Jordan is a really funny guy when he desires to speak. And there were 2 scenes, I think Megan's dress and Allie's dress. When you're meeting the parents, maybe I'm just really old fashioned, but I do believe in modesty and being, I don't know, it's a first impression and you only get that once. And so Megan's dress was kind of like, we're going to the club, like we going out. And so when I saw the parents, how modestly they were dressed, and then Megan, I was like, oh shoot, is this, are they going to mention this? But I think they kept it classy. But I think it's just, again, this could be really old school, but I think it's important that dressing for the occasion and letting the parents focus on you, your character, your personality, and not kind of like, having so much bare skin exposed where it just feels like it didn't match the scene. So Allie and Megan, that's like, again, you could call me, you know, I don't know, you could say it's from purity culture growing up Christian, but I do believe in just being modest for parents, especially in that first impression where you want to win their favor and you also want to show them, yeah, that you can recognize when to read the room and how to be appropriate for certain situations. Um, Yeah, I think Jordan not being a conversationalist is interesting. And again, there's so much that we're not seeing. He probably had the shift with Luca. He probably is picking up overtime. He had time off work. He's probably making up for it. And then just the overall exhaustion from being mic'd up almost 24/7 for 4.5 weeks straight. That can get old real quick. So I wonder, Megan seems to also need a lot of reassurance, not as much as Annie, but my fear with Megan is, like I mentioned earlier in this video, when one person doesn't actually need the other, it's going to be really hard for Jordan to feel like he matches up to what Megan needs. And so if Megan doesn't need Jordan's money, she needs his emotional, mental, spiritual stimulation. And if he can't even give that, it's going to be really hard for her to be incentivized to stay. And so she is taking the role of being a stepmom seriously because she doesn't want to just come into this little boy's life and then dip out just as fast. Like, I think she really wants to make this work. And she's trying so hard to change who she has dated. And because Jordan is so different, I think it's giving her so many signs. I still think there's a little bit of, the trauma bonding of the dad passing away from type 1 diabetes and Luca having type 1 diabetes. I don't want that to feel like, well, this has to be the reason we must make it work. I don't think signs necessarily work like that. We can ultimately make anything look like a sign. We can cross enough T's and dot enough I's to make anything look like it was serendipitous. But I hope Megan realizes that if her prototype of her exes is usually douchebag but successful, there's also like nerdy and successful. There's mid successful and not so douchey. Like there's not just one archetype of like, because you're successful, you're a horrible person, and because you're not as successful, you're a great person. Like there's such a spectrum of men. So I don't think Megan has really given herself a chance to see and date more people. Her best friend is a guy. I don't know if the guy is gay. I think his name was Jay or something. But the way he hugged her, so they had the dress fitting, and the way he hugged her, his hand basically cupped her cheeks. I was like, I'm pretty sure he's gay, but the I was like, "What's that? That's your best friend, and it's a guy." And I don't know, I wasn't sure if, like, this feels awfully convenient or awfully familiar. Like, is this actually an ex that turned into a friend because it didn't work out? Like, I don't know if Jordan's humor is enough to l for Megan to really, because I don't wanna call it a downgrade, but the fact that he said she's so excited about this almost $500,000 wedding in Italy, which, hello, who wouldn't wanna go to that? Lake Como is beautiful, I miss it, and Jordan transparently was like, "It sounds like work. We gotta travel, and there's all these pumps and machines, and oh my gosh, like, I actually am not excited about the idea." And I think Megan needs someone that is just as adventurous and maybe also doesn't have as many responsibilities. You also don't wanna come across as shallow by leaving someone because they can't live the life that you desire, but I think that comes down to alignment. One person is always gonna resent the other if one person is living out the life they want, or if the other is actually having to downgrade what they truly desire for themselves. So, yeah. Edmond and KB. KB is incredibly emotionally intelligent. I give her a lot of credit, and she's a social worker, so it makes a lot of sense. I like how she reads Edmund in a gracious way, but she's stern and direct when she needs to be. Um, it's important that Edmund is held accountable because I like that she was like, "No, why are you being fake? Why are you only smiling for the camera and dismissing me? Like, why are you rude to me in the car? And then as soon as we get out, you want to hug and kiss." It's so important to call that stuff out because I don't like when people think that they can get away with that. And again, I feel like that dynamic is common with, I don't want to say men, but when you're seeing one person that's holding one the other accountable and the other feels attacked because they're not used to having to grow. And we talked about, Edmond, whether he's neurodivergent or not, no matter what, he is very emotionally dysregulated. And someone like that, unfortunately, needs constant reassurance and doesn't have a sense of self that isn't contingent or reliant upon someone else building them up, which is incredibly exhausting. So when KB said that, she was like, I'm tired. I'm tired. I'm like, woo. I feel like so many women grasped to that feeling because yes, it's usually on the woman to carry the emotional intelligence and the emotional weight of a relationship and its stability. So yeah, I was just really disappointed in Edmund in these the past two episodes because I feel like he got away with being the quirky, fun, lovable, energetic guy, but really he's just incredibly immature. And I think KB deserves better. I see the dynamic being constantly mother-son. Like she's gonna end up mothering him because there's so much I feel like he hasn't been able to develop by himself or do for himself. And I don't know, if you are coddled and enabled by your people, by your family, you will never grow or develop in the area where you have a clear blind spot. So yeah, it's she did take it too far by calling him a bitch. That was intense. I was like, "Oh, she mad, mad." Um, yeah, but a clear mismatched relationship. Highlight of these last two episodes was a quote from Jordan's dad where he said, "Marriage is 10% love, 90% commitment." Now, the ratio could probably vary depending on your individual relationship, but I loved that reframe. And my favorite thing about this series and this show is how you get such an honest, healthy, and modern take on what actually makes marriage work. And, Stefan and I, we did premarital counseling, we did couples counseling. Like, you can do all of that, but it's not until you actually get to witness everyday couples go through their ish where you get to be like, man, we're not as bad as we thought. Or just like, oh, this is a normal conflict or tension point. Okay, this dynamic makes sense. Or, hmm, like when we would watch the show together, we would like pause it sometimes and be like, oh yeah, that was me. Oh, I see myself in that. Oh yeah, that was you last week. Oh yeah, good. We would have those moments where we get to see each other in the characters, just these brief moments of like, oh yeah, that I see. So I can empathize with them being human, and that's why I'm mindful not to be too harsh about, some of their patterns, because we are only seeing a microcosm of what was actually filmed in 4.5 weeks. So, oh, y'all, I cannot wait. Once again, none of these couples deserve to get married. No, sorry, everyone deserves love. Everyone deserves to be married. They don't deserve each other. No, they shouldn't. If any couple makes it, it'll be Megan and Jordan. Uh, but unfortunately, Megan will be I hope she doesn't grow resentful because I can see resentment building from her trying so hard to be a wife and a stepmom and losing herself in the process. And just her even giving up her LA home, buying a new one. Like there's a lot that she's sacrificing, and it might feel like a little bit of a downgrade in terms of lifestyle. So I don't want that. I don't want her to take that on so quickly. And I like that I think another cast member mentioned that sometimes they take several months to years before they actually start living together. I think that's healthy. Even with Stefan and I, we would go back and forth to each other's places. And even when we would live together sometimes, but I think it's actually still important to have separate spaces. And you can go stay at each other's spaces back and forth, but being under the same roof, 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 roof 24/7, 365 days a year, that is a lot. And it makes so much sense why couples don't make it because it's suffocating to be with the same person constantly, to be re-triggered by the same things, and to lose your identity. in the relationship because you're not giving yourself the space to grow, thrive, be alone, heal, process, just be with yourself. Solo time is so important whether you're by yourself or in a relationship. So I don't know, y'all. I cannot wait for the finale. I know they're probably going to drag it on. Once again, Ally and Anton don't make it. Ally says no. Absolutely. Anton is way more invested, but Ally says no because she knows better. Unfortunately, she knows better. Megan and Jordan, oof, they're going to be a wild card. I will be surprised if they both say yes, but I think they have the strongest. Yeah, they have the strongest bond. I think they say yes, but I don't think they actually make it very long. And then KB and Edmond. I think KB says no. Edmond is all in. Unfortunately, KB would be the one compromising, growing resentment. When one person is just more, it's tough, y'all. And this is why love actually feels like a miracle because to be aligned emotionally, spiritually, intelligently, what's the word I'm looking for? Your mind, mentally. Why did that word feel so hard to come by? Okay, this is a half an hour video. That's why. That's my excuse. We burned a lot of calories today working out. But I hope y'all are appreciating. We got a little bit crisper quality. Um, I hope this uploads in 1080p. We'll see. But yeah, y'all, I'm rooting for love, but I'm also honest about what it takes. And love is very much a miracle because of all the alignment needed and values and lifestyle and religion and anything that feels like force, I don't think should be fought for. And so many of the couples on this show, it was like fighting. Let me know in the comments if you guys are, I know Brazil had a new season, France, UK. Let me know if those are worth watching because now that I'm at the end of this, a part of me is like, whew, I get my life back. The other part of me is like, new rabbit hole. Let's see how the other cultures are doing it. I think my favorite, the Middle East, Love is Blind Middle East, that was the most toxic. You want toxic? Toxic. There was what I appreciated about that branch, they don't kiss, they don't have sex, obviously. So it's so much more based on emotional intelligence, education, camaraderie, companionship, lots of traditional roles and how they view marriage. So yeah, I really appreciate how other cultures, yeah, like what is the process in other cultures. All right, y'all, that's all I got. Obviously, stay tuned for the marriage recap that will be happening next week, as well as the reunion. I think they postponed the reunion for another week. I I used to love when they put all the episodes and the reunion at once, but now I'm like, okay, it's good that they space it out. It gives people time to like actually consume. It's like 6, 7, maybe 8 hours worth of yes, a lot of if on average the episodes are like an hour long, that's a long. All right, let me shut up and end this video. All right, y'all, thank you so much for watching. If you're new here, be sure to like and subscribe. I am making videos every single day, usually about travel abroad and entrepreneurship, but occasionally we do a little reality TV love recap. Go here to learn more about ways to work with me, masterclasses, ebooks, one-on-one, trips that I host, and here for yesterday's video. All right, y'all. I will talk to y'all tomorrow. Bye.